Commander Ethan Miller stood on the bridge of the Earth ship Resilience. His eyes were fixed on the main screen. The stars looked peaceful, but Ethan knew space was never truly quiet. "Commander, we found something strange," said Lisa Young, his sensor officer. Her voice was tense. "There's a ship about 3 light minutes away. It's not moving right. Might be damage." Ethan walked to her station and looked at the readings. The ship was unlike anything in Earth's database. It wasn't human-made. "Can we get a visual?" he asked. The screen changed to show a vessel that looked like a silver leaf with blue lights along its edges. It was spinning slowly, drifting through space. "No response to our hails," said Communications Officer Ben Harris. "But I'm picking up some kind of distress signal. It's not in any language I know." Ethan thought for a moment. First Contact Protocol said they should report this to Earth Command and wait for orders. But if that ship was in trouble, waiting could mean death for whoever was inside. "Plot an intercept course," Ethan ordered. "Prepare a rescue team." His second-in-command, Samantha Wright, looked worried. "Sir, protocol says." "I know what protocol says, Sam," Ethan interrupted. "But there might be people dying on that ship. I'm not going to wait 6 hours for Earth Command to make up their minds." 30 minutes later, Ethan led a team of 6 across to the alien vessel. Their suits were heavy with extra oxygen and emergency supplies. The Resilience's doctor, Alan Ross, came along in case there were injured aliens. They found a way in through what seemed to be an airlock. Inside, the gravity was lighter than on their ship. The air was breathable, but had a strange, sweet smell. "Stay alert," Ethan warned. "We don't know what we're dealing with." They moved through curved hallways lit by soft blue light. The ship was beautiful, with designs that looked like flowing water on the walls. In what seemed to be the main control room, they found the crew. There were 12 aliens of different shapes and sizes. Some had scales, others had fur. One looked like a tall praying mantis. Another was a blue-skinned humanoid with 4 arms. When the aliens saw the humans, they made noises that sounded like fear. The blue one with 4 arms backed away, its eyes wide. "We come in peace," Ethan said, raising his empty hands. "We saw your ship was in trouble." The aliens spoke to each other in high-pitched voices. One of them, who looked like a tall gray lizard, stepped forward holding a small device. It spoke, and the device made a rough translation. "You, help. Why?" "Your ship was damaged. We came to offer assistance," Ethan replied slowly. The device translated. The aliens looked at each other in what seemed like shock. The lizard-like alien spoke again. "You are? From where?" "We are humans, from Earth," Ethan said. When the translation came through, the aliens made sounds like gasps. The blue 4-armed one spoke rapidly, and the translation device said, "Deathworlders. They are Deathworlders." Ethan didn't understand what that meant, but he could tell it frightened them. "We won't hurt you," he assured them. "We just want to help." The lizard alien seemed to be the leader. It introduced itself as Ambassador Skora of the Velaran species. It explained that they were representatives of something called the Galactic Concord, a group of 37 spacefaring species. "Our engines failed," Skora explained through the translator. "We were searching for help." "Help with what?" Ethan asked. The alien's face grew solemn. "A threat to all life. The Void Scourge. It eats stars, planets, everything." Ethan felt a chill. "And you think we can help?" The aliens looked at each other again. Finally, Skora said, "We did not expect to find your kind. Deathworlders are rare, dangerous, but maybe what we need." "What's a Deathworlder?" asked Dr. Ross. "You come from planet that should kill you," the translator said. "High gravity, radiation, storms, predators, poison. Earth is hell to us. Those who live in hell are feared." Ethan wasn't sure if he should be offended or proud. "Well, we still want to help you. Let's get your ship repaired, and then we can talk more about this void scourge." The aliens seemed both grateful and terrified. As the humans helped them, Ethan wondered what it meant for Earth that the galaxy both feared them and needed them. A new chapter in human history had begun. 2 weeks after the rescue, Lieutenant Olivia Carter stood in a large meeting room at Earth's United Defense Headquarters. She watched as diplomats and military leaders from Earth sat across from the alien representatives of the Galactic Concord. Olivia had been chosen for this task force because she understood both biology and combat tactics. At 32 years old, she had already written 3 books about how different species might fight in space. "Lieutenant Carter will be our liaison to the Concord science team," said General Paul Wilson. He was a stern man with gray hair who rarely smiled. "She will help us understand how humans can best assist in this war." Olivia nodded at the aliens sitting across from her. They looked so different from each other. One had purple skin that seemed to shimmer. Another was short with 6 arms and eyes that blinked sideways. The one that caught her attention most was a tall, thin being with pale blue skin and large black eyes. This was Science Director Naxvol. "We are grateful for Earth's willingness to help," said Ambassador Skatora, the lizard-like Velaran who had first met humans on the damaged ship. "The Void Scourge has already destroyed 12 star systems. Our weapons seem useless against them." "Tell us more about these Void Scourge," asked Admiral Diane Foster. "What exactly are we fighting?" Naxvol stood up. His movements were graceful, like he was floating. "The Void Scourge is a techno-organic hive mind. They were once a single species, but they changed themselves with machines and genetic engineering. Now they consume all life to make more of themselves." He touched a small device, and a hologram appeared in the center of the table. It showed strange ships that looked like black spiders with glowing red lines across their hulls. "They adapt quickly," Naxvol continued. "When our weapons work once, they rarely work a second time." Olivia spoke up. "Have you tried changing your tactics? Fighting them in different ways?" The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably. "Our species are not built for war like humans seem to be," said a small furry alien named Recta. "We fight from a distance, with technology. The idea of close combat is—" He shuddered. Olivia found this interesting. "I'd like to learn more about the physiological differences between our species," she said to Naxvol. The next day, Olivia met with Naxvol in a laboratory set up for the Concord scientists. She had brought medical scans of human bodies to compare with alien physiology. Naxvol seemed both fascinated and disturbed as he studied the scans. "Your bone density is remarkable," he said. "And your muscles. So powerful for your size." "That's because Earth has stronger gravity than most Concord worlds," Olivia explained. "And these white blood cells," Naxvol continued, pointing to another scan. "They actively hunt pathogens. Most Concord species have passive defenses only. Our immune system is aggressive," Olivia said. "Earth has millions of diseases and parasites. We evolved to fight them off." Later that week, a delegation of Concord representatives visited Earth. They wore special suits to protect them from what they called extreme conditions. During a tour of New York City, a thunderstorm began. The aliens panicked at the lightning and thunder. "You live with electrical discharges from the sky?" asked a horrified Recta. "It's just a storm," said Frank, one of the human guides. "Happens all the time." When they visited a wildlife preserve and saw bears and wolves, the aliens could not believe humans shared a planet with such predators. "On our worlds, such creatures would be contained or eliminated," said Skatora. That evening, Olivia met with Naxvol again. The alien scientists seemed troubled. "What's wrong?" she asked. "We have studied thousands of worlds," Naxvol said quietly. "None as harsh as Earth. Yet you not only survive here, you thrive. You've built great cities, art, music, all while living in conditions that would kill most Concord species in days." Olivia hadn't thought of Earth as dangerous before. To her, it was just home. Perhaps Naxful continued, "This is exactly why we need humans. The Void Scourge has never encountered a species from a death world. They may not know how to fight against creatures evolved to survive in hell." Olivia smiled. "Then let's show them what Deathworlders can do." Captain Ryan Blackwood floated through the halls of the massive Concorde flagship of Eternal Harmony. Even with the artificial gravity turned up for the human visitors, he felt light as a feather. The ship was beautiful, with curved walls that glowed with soft light and ceilings that showed moving star patterns. Ryan led a team of 20 human specialists chosen to train alongside the Concorde military forces. They had been on the alien ship for 3 weeks now, and every day brought new surprises. "You're late for the combat exercise, Captain," said Sergeant Kate Wilson as she drifted toward him. She was a tough soldier with short red hair and a scar above her left eye. "Sorry," Ryan said. "I was talking with the ship's engineers about their defense systems. The technology here is amazing." They entered a large chamber where alien soldiers waited. The room could change its layout to create different training scenarios. Today it was set up like the inside of a Void Scourge vessel, based on recordings from previous battles. Commander Keksaveric, a tall insect-like alien with 4 arms, greeted them. "Today we practice boarding actions," he said through his translator. "The Void Scourge sometimes must be fought on their own ships." The exercise began. The gravity suddenly increased to simulate combat conditions. Ryan and his team moved forward easily, but the alien soldiers struggled. Their movements became slow and clumsy. "Is something wrong with the gravity?" Ryan asked. "This is standard combat gravity," Keksaveric explained. "We increased it to make the simulation realistic." Ryan looked at Kate, who shrugged. "This feels lighter than Earth normal to me," she said. The aliens stared at them in surprise. During the exercise, the human team completed their objectives 3 times faster than the alien squads. When simulated Void Scourge attacked, the humans responded with quick, decisive movements that the aliens could not match. Later, in the ship's medical bay, Ryan found Olivia examining tissue samples with Science Director Naxful. "How was training?" Olivia asked without looking up from her microscope. "Interesting," Ryan said. "The Concorde soldiers are well equipped, but they fight like they're afraid to get hurt." "They are," Naxful said simply. "Most Concorde species have no natural armor, weak bones, and slow healing. A broken limb might disable one of us for months. You humans can recover from injuries that would kill most of us." Ryan thought about this. "So your whole military strategy is based on avoiding close combat?" "Of course," Naxful said. "Our ships fight at great distances. Our ground forces use drones and remote weapons. The idea of physically confronting an enemy is..." He shuddered. Olivia motioned Ryan over to her workstation. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a screen showing microscopic images. "These are samples from a Void Scourge drone captured last month." Ryan stared at the strange cells on the screen. They were unlike anything he had seen before, half biological and half mechanical. "I've been testing how these cells react to different environments," Olivia explained. "They're highly sensitive to Earth bacteria. They have no defense against it." "That makes sense," Naxful added. "The Void Scourge evolved in a sterile environment. They have never encountered the biological diversity of a death world like Earth." Ryan thought for a moment. "So what you're saying is, not only can we fight better in their environments than the Concorde forces can, but our very biology might be a weapon against them." "Exactly," Olivia said with excitement in her voice. "And I have another theory. The Scourge operates as a hive mind, right? What if we could disrupt their communications using something they've never encountered before?" "Like what?" Ryan asked. "Earth pathogens, modified to target their neural network," Olivia said. "It's just a theory, but I think it could work." Naxful looked troubled. "Such biological warfare is forbidden by Concorde law. But these are desperate times." As they talked, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. A voice announced, All personnel to battle stations. Void Scourge vessels detected in the Arcturus system. Ryan looked at Olivia. Looks like we'll get to test our Deathworlder advantages sooner than we thought. Good, she said. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do. The Arcturus system was beautiful, with 3 suns of different colors casting strange shadows across the fleet. But no one had time to admire the view. 5 Void Scourge ships had been detected moving toward the 3rd planet, where a Concord mining colony was located. Chief Engineer Alice Wright worked quickly in the engine room of the human ship Defiance. Earth had sent 10 ships to join the Concord fleet, each retrofitted with alien technology. Alice had spent weeks learning how the new systems worked. Power levels stable, she reported to Captain Ryan over the comm. The new engines are running at 120% of expected output. Good work, Ryan replied from the bridge. Be ready for high maneuvers. Alice smiled. The Concord engineers had been shocked when she explained that humans wanted more power than their safety protocols allowed. They didn't understand that humans could handle forces that would crush most alien species. On the bridge, Ryan watched as the fleet arranged itself for battle. The Concord ships formed a perfect line, their weapons charged. They looked powerful, with sleek designs and shimmering force fields. Void Scourge vessels approaching, announced the sensor officer. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes. Ryan opened a channel to the other human ships. Remember the plan. We're the fast attack group. Hit them hard, then break away before they can adapt. The Void Scourge ships came into view on the main screen. They were ugly things that looked like black spiders with glowing red veins. Each one was the size of a small moon. All ships, fire at will, ordered Admiral Zextray of the Concord fleet. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. The Concord weapons were powerful but slow. Many missed their targets as the Scourge ships moved with surprising speed. Now, Ryan ordered. The human ships broke formation and accelerated toward the enemy. They moved in a way the Concord ships could not, pulling turns and spins that would kill most alien pilots. Alice's engines performed perfectly, letting them reach speeds the aliens thought impossible. Thunderstrike weapons hot, called the weapons officer. The Thunderstrike railguns were Alice's greatest achievement. She had combined human metallurgy with Concord energy tech to create weapons that fired metal slugs at near-light speed. They were simple compared to the Concord's complex energy weapons, but they worked. The Defiance fired its main Thunderstrike, sending a tungsten rod through the nearest Scourge ship. The impact tore a hole straight through the enemy vessel. The other human ships fired too, their simple but effective weapons causing massive damage. The Void Scourge seemed confused by this new attack. Their defenses were designed to stop energy weapons, not physical projectiles moving at such speeds. But the enemy adapted quickly. The damaged ships began to repair themselves, growing new armor that looked thicker than before. They're changing, Ryan said. Prepare for the second phase. Before the fleet could regroup, one of the Scourge ships launched hundreds of small pods toward the Resilience, one of the human vessels. Boarding parties warned Admiral Zextra. Resilience, you must retreat. Negative, replied Commander Ethan Miller from the Resilience. We can handle boarders. Inside the Resilience, Ethan led a team of Marines to defend against the intruders. The Void Scourge drones broke through the hull in several places. They were horrible things, partly machine and partly flesh, with too many limbs and glowing red eyes. The fighting was fierce and close. The drones were strong, but the humans fought with a ferocity that shocked the Concord observers watching through the ship's cameras. Even when wounded, the humans kept fighting. They used everything as weapons: guns, knives, and even their bare hands when needed. One Marine, Sergeant Luis Rodriguez, continued to fight even after a drone had torn open his suit and slashed his arm. He killed 3 drones before getting medical attention. When the battle was over, all the boarders had been eliminated. The Resilience had survived. Admiral Zextra's voice came over the comm. I have never seen such. I don't know whether to be impressed or terrified by your kind. Ethan, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, simply replied, "This is just what humans do when threatened. You haven't seen anything yet." Dr. Jack Harrison looked through his microscope at the sample of void-scourged tissue. The lab was quiet except for the soft hum of equipment. After weeks of research, he was close to a breakthrough. Jack led Earth's top biological research team. He had spent his career studying how bacteria could be used to help people. Now he was using that knowledge for a different purpose. "Take a look at this," he said to Olivia, who stood nearby reviewing data. "The scourge cells are breaking down completely." Olivia moved to his station and looked through the microscope. The void scourge sample was being consumed by tiny organisms. "Which strain is that?" she asked. "Modified E. coli bacteria from human intestines," Jack replied. "I changed it to target the neural pathways the scourge uses for their hive mind." Olivia smiled. "So it attacks their communication system." "Exactly. It won't just kill them. It will disconnect them from each other. Without the hive mind, they'll be confused, uncoordinated." Their conversation was interrupted when Science Director Naxvol entered the lab with several members of the Concord Ethics Council. The aliens looked troubled. "Dr. Harrison," Naxvol said formally, "the Council wishes to discuss your research." A tall, thin alien with pale skin stepped forward. "I am Counselor Ithmal. We understand you are developing biological weapons against the Void Scourge." Jack nodded. "Yes. We've created a bacteria that targets their neural network. It could disable their hive mind across entire fleets." The aliens looked at each other with expressions that seemed like horror, though it was hard for humans to read their faces. "In Concord society," Ithmal said slowly, "biological warfare is considered deeply immoral. We outlawed such weapons thousands of years ago." Jack tried to stay patient. "With respect, Counselor, the Void Scourge is consuming entire planets. They've already killed billions. We need every advantage we can get." "The humans are right," Naxvol said, surprising everyone. "I have studied their history. They have used terrible weapons against each other in their past, but they have also learned hard lessons from those wars." Olivia stepped forward. "We don't want to use this weapon. But if we don't, how many more will die? The Scourge doesn't negotiate. It doesn't show mercy." After hours of debate, the Council reluctantly agreed. The biological weapon would be developed, but with strict controls. Only the highest military authorities could order its use. Later, Olivia and Naxvol worked together in the lab, designing a delivery system for the bacteria. They needed a way to spread it quickly through Scourge ships. "I still don't understand humans fully," Naxvol admitted as they worked. "Your bodies are remarkable, but it's your minds that truly set you apart." "What do you mean?" Olivia asked. "Your species has faced extinction many times in your history. Disease, war, climate change. Yet you never surrendered. Most species, when faced with such challenges, either adapt slowly or die out. Humans fight back." Olivia had never thought about it that way. "I guess we're stubborn," she said with a small smile. "It's more than stubbornness," Naxvol said. "Your planet taught you that survival requires sacrifice and hard choices. The Concord species have lived in peace so long, we forgot those lessons." Their work was interrupted by an emergency alert. The main screen in the lab activated, showing Admiral Diane Foster. "We've detected a massive Void Scourge fleet," she said, her face grim. "Largest one yet. They're heading toward the Concord core worlds." "How long do we have?" Olivia asked. "At their current speed, 2 weeks at most," the Admiral replied. "Dr. Harrison, is your weapon ready?" Jack joined them at the screen. "We need more time for testing, but the basic formula works. We just need a way to deploy it effectively." "Then we need a new strategy," Admiral Foster said. "Something they won't expect." She paused, looking thoughtful. "What if we use Earth as bait?" Olivia felt a chill. "Bait? You mean let them attack our home?" The Scourge is drawn to biodiversity and resources, the Admiral explained. Earth has both in abundance. If we can lure them there, we can set a trap using the bioweapon. Naxvol looked shocked. You would risk your homeworld. Admiral Foster's expression was determined. To save the galaxy. Yes, that's what humans do. Admiral Frank Daniels stood on the bridge of the flagship Guardian, looking at the holographic display of Earth's solar system. Around him, both human and alien officers worked at their stations, preparing for the coming battle. Frank was 55 years old with gray hair and a face lined by years of difficult decisions. This would be the hardest one yet. The bioweapon has been dispersed throughout Earth's upper atmosphere, reported Dr. Jack Harrison over the comm. If the Scourge enters our atmosphere, their ships will be infected immediately. And our people? Frank asked. All major population centers have been evacuated to underground shelters, Jack replied. The bacteria won't harm humans or Earth life. It only targets the Scourge's neural pathways. Frank nodded. Using Earth as bait had been a desperate plan, but the Void Scourge had taken it. Their massive fleet had changed course and was now heading straight for the solar system. Admiral, called out a sensor officer, the Scourge fleet has entered the outer solar system. They're moving past Neptune. Frank turned to Ambassador Sktora, who stood nearby. The alien looked worried, his scaled skin pale. Your people are brave beyond understanding, Sktora said quietly. To risk your homeworld. We're not just fighting for Earth, Frank replied. We're fighting for all life in the galaxy. The next few days were tense as the enemy fleet moved closer. Frank barely slept, checking reports and adjusting plans. The combined human and Concord fleet was hidden behind Earth's moon, waiting to spring the trap. Scourge fleet entering Earth orbit, announced the sensor officer. On the main screen, hundreds of the spider-like ships appeared, surrounding the blue planet like a dark cloud. They're launching landing craft, another officer reported. Thousands of them. Frank watched as the Scourge ships descended toward Earth's atmosphere. The plan was working. As the ships passed through the air, they would be infected with the bioweapon. All ships, prepare to attack, Frank ordered. Wait for my signal. The minutes seemed to stretch into hours as they waited. Then, something strange happened. The Scourge ships began to move erratically. Some collided with each other. Others drifted off course. It's working. Jack's voice came over the comm. The bioweapon is disrupting their hive mind. Now, Frank ordered. All ships attack. The human and Concord fleet emerged from behind the moon, weapons blazing. The Thunderstrike railguns tore through the confused Scourge ships. Energy beams from Concord vessels cut down dozens more. But the Scourge fleet was vast. Even confused, they were dangerous. They returned fire, destroying several Concord ships immediately. They're adapting to the bioweapon faster than expected, Jack warned. We have maybe 20 minutes before they develop immunity. Frank made a quick decision. All ships focus fire on their command vessels. The largest Scourge ships would contain the central nodes of the hive mind. The battle was fierce. Frank watched as brave pilots on both sides fought and died. His own ship was hit multiple times, the hull breached in several places. One human ship, the Defiant, had lost all its weapons. Instead of retreating, its captain drove the vessel straight into a large Scourge ship, destroying both in a massive explosion. They sacrificed themselves, whispered a Concord officer in disbelief. They saved the ships beside them, Frank said quietly. More human ships followed this example when their weapons failed. They used their vessels as weapons, ramming into critical Scourge ships. The Concord commanders were shocked by these tactics. In their culture, such sacrifice was almost unheard of. Finally, after hours of fighting, the remaining Scourge ships began to retreat. The bioweapon had done enough damage to break their coordination, and the fleet's counterattack had destroyed their command structure. As the enemy fled, Frank looked at the main screen showing Earth. Great fires burned across the continents where the fighting had been heaviest. Many cities lay in ruins, but the planet still lived, and its people would rebuild. "We've won," Ambassador Scifistories said in wonder. "Your plan worked." "At a great cost," Frank replied, looking at the list of ships lost in the battle. "But yes, Earth is safe, and the Scourge is running." Scifistories stared at the damaged planet. "Your cities are destroyed, yet you call this victory." Frank smiled grimly. "Cities can be rebuilt. And now we take the fight to them." 3 months after the Battle of Earth, Lieutenant Nicole Evans stood in the airlock of her small ship, the Huntress. She checked her combat suit one last time. The planet below, once called Lyra 4 by the Concorde, was now a half-dead world. The Void Scourge had begun consuming it before abandoning it during their retreat. "Team ready?" Nicole asked over her comm. "Ready, Lieutenant," replied Sergeant Danny Walsh. He led the 5 other members of her hunter-killer squad. They were all veterans of the Earth battle, chosen for their skills and adaptability. Hunter-killer squads were a new concept, created to hunt down the remaining Void Scourge forces scattered across the galaxy. These small, elite teams could go where larger ships couldn't, tracking the enemy to their hiding places. "Remember," Nicole said, "we're looking for a control node. Intel suggests it's in the old mining complex. These things are trying to rebuild their network. We don't let that happen." The team dropped to the planet's surface using jump packs. The air was thin but breathable, though it had a burnt smell. The landscape was gray and lifeless. What had once been forests were now just fields of ash. "This place gives me the creeps," said Kelly Martinez, the team's tech specialist. "It's like the planet is a half-eaten corpse." "Stay focused," Nicole ordered. Scourge activity detected half a kilometer east. They moved quickly across the barren ground, weapons ready. Nicole led her team toward a range of low hills where the mining complex was located. Sensors indicated movement inside the main structure. "Life signs?" asked Danny. "Not exactly life," Kelly replied, checking her scanner, "but definitely Scourge energy patterns. Something big in there." The entrance to the mining complex was a massive door, partially melted by some intense heat. Beyond it, dark tunnels led deep into the hillside. The team activated their suit lights and moved inside. The walls of the tunnels were covered with strange, pulsing red veins, the mark of Scourge occupation. These organic mechanical growths served as both power conduits and communication lines for the hive mind. "These are active," Kelly whispered. "Very active. Whatever's down here, it's powerful." They followed the veins deeper into the complex. The tunnels opened into a vast chamber that had once been the main mining hub. Now it was transformed. In the center stood a massive structure that looked like a cross between a computer and a living heart. Pulsing with red light, it filled the chamber with a low humming sound. "That's it," Nicole said quietly. "A central node. It's trying to reconnect with other Scourge remnants." "How do we destroy it?" asked Danny. Before Nicole could answer, the node sensed them. Alarms blared, and doors around the chamber slammed shut. From side tunnels, Scourge drones emerged, dozens of them, moving with frightening speed. "Defensive positions," Nicole shouted as she fired her rifle. The team formed a circle, backs to each other. The fighting was intense. The drones were less coordinated than during previous encounters, but still dangerous. They swarmed forward in waves, trying to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers. Nicole's team fought well, their Earth-born reflexes and strength giving them an edge even in these desperate circumstances. But there were too many enemies. One by one, her team members fell. Kelly was the first, her scream cutting off suddenly. Then 2 more went down under a wave of drones. With only Nicole, Danny, and 1 other soldier left, she knew they wouldn't survive. But they could still complete the mission. "Cover me," she shouted to Danny as she pulled a small device from her pack. It was their emergency measure, a compact antimatter power core, designed to be used as a last resort. Nickel fought her way toward the central node, taking moons but pushing forward. She reached the pulsing heart of the structure and attached the device directly to it. She set the timer for 2 minutes. "Danny, get off planet now," she ordered through her comm. "Not without you," he responded. "That's an order, Sergeant," Nickel shouted as she fired at more approaching drones. "Someone has to tell them what we found." Danny hesitated, then grabbed their last surviving teammate and retreated toward the exit. Nickel stayed, fighting to give them time, keeping the drones away from the bomb. As Danny's ship lifted off from the planet's surface, he saw a flash of blue-white light from the mining complex. The explosion shook the ground for kilometers around. His sensors detected the complete destruction of the Scourge node and the end of Lieutenant Nickel Evans' life signs. High above the planet, Danny opened a channel to Concord Command. "Hunter Killer Team 7 reporting. Node destroyed. Lieutenant Evans didn't make it. She saved us all." The alien operator was silent for a moment. Then, with what sounded like awe in its voice, it replied, "Another human who charged into hell to save others. We will remember her name." 1 year after the destruction of the last Void Scourge outpost, Earth's ambassador Gregory Walsh stood in the Great Hall on Harmonious Unity, the capital world of the Galactic Concord. The hall was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to touch the sky and walls made of a crystal-like material that changed colors with the light. Greg was a tall man with dark skin and kind eyes. He had been a diplomat for 20 years, but never imagined he would represent humanity to hundreds of alien species. Around him stood representatives from all 37 Concord worlds, plus delegates from 12 other species who had joined during the past year. High Counselor Vexran, the leader of the Concord, approached the central platform. The old Velaran moved slowly, his scaled body showing signs of age. "Today marks a historic occasion," Vexran announced, his voice amplified throughout the hall. "The formal induction of Earth into the Galactic Concord." Applause filled the room, though some species showed approval in different ways. Some hummed, others flashed colored patterns on their skin. "But this induction is unique," Vexran continued. "Humans will have a special status among us. They have proven themselves not just as allies, but as protectors." Greg stepped forward and accepted a crystal tablet, the formal treaty. He placed his hand on it, and it glowed blue, recognizing his DNA. "Earth accepts membership in the Concord," Greg said, "and we accept the responsibility that comes with it." The treaty established the Human Defense Initiative, giving Earth ships authority to operate throughout Concord space. It was an unprecedented arrangement. Never before had one species been granted such power. Not everyone was happy with this. Greg could see some delegates whispering to each other with concerned expressions. The idea of Deathworlders with advanced technology moving freely through their territories made many nervous. After the ceremony, Greg met with Admiral Ethan Miller, who had been promoted after the Battle of Earth. Now in his 50s, Ethan's hair had turned completely gray, but his eyes were as sharp as ever. "Congratulations, Ambassador," Ethan said with a smile. "How does it feel to represent a species that terrifies half the galaxy?" Greg laughed. "Strange, but they're starting to understand us better now." They walked to a large viewing window that looked out over the capital city. In the distance, Earth ships were taking off, heading to their new assignments throughout Concord space. "We've come a long way," Ethan said quietly. "When I first met Sktora on that damaged ship, I never imagined we'd end up here." "They needed us," Greg replied. "Not just our strength or technology, but our perspective. Living on a death world taught humans to never give up, to keep fighting when others would surrender." Ethan nodded. "Sktora told me something interesting once. He said, we feared Deathworlders because we couldn't understand how intelligence could evolve in such hostile conditions. We never considered that perhaps surviving such conditions is what makes intelligence truly formidable." As they watched the ships depart, Greg felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. Earth was still rebuilding from the Scourge attack, but cities were rising again. And now humans had found a place in the wider galaxy, not just as members, but as guardians. Later that day, back on her research station orbiting harmonious unity, Olivia Carter received an urgent message. Now the director of the new Xenobiological Defense Institute, she had been working to identify and prepare for other potential threats to the galaxy. The message contained data about strange energy readings from deep space, beyond the edge of the galaxy. It might be nothing, but it might be something new and dangerous. Years ago, such a discovery would have filled her with fear. But now, Olivia found herself smiling. This was what humans did best: face the unknown and overcome it. She sent a message to Ethan and Greg. Possible new threat detected. Preliminary analysis attached. We should prepare. Neither man was surprised. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers. But now it had protectors who were born on a world that taught them how to survive against impossible odds. The Deathworlders had not just saved the galaxy, they had found their purpose within it. And whatever came next, humanity would be ready.